everybody, it's TVO. I just started my descent of Mount Greylock, and I stopped to make this video because I just had a very interesting experience happen on the summit of the mountain, and I thought that it was worth sharing. I went to Bascom Lodge, which is on top of the mountain, to get some water, fill up my water bottle, and I heard screaming from behind the lodge, like a fight, like loud men yelling and screaming really aggressively. So I went around to the back of the building to see what was going on, and there were two men fighting, and they were holding onto a bicycle, one guy in bike attire and a helmet, clearly the owner of the bicycle, and then another man, a ranger, and they were both holding onto the bicycle and yelling and screaming and using the bike as a weapon as they would like force it back and forth into each other, and one of them was bloodied from being hit by the bike as they fought over it. So I ran over, not knowing what I was going to do, but knowing that somebody had to do something. And in the lodge upstairs, everybody's looking out the windows. There were like 30 people watching this fight happen, but nobody was doing anything. And I hate confrontation. I absolutely hate confrontation. Nothing scares me more than confrontation, angry people fighting and being aggressive and violent. And that's exactly what was going on here. But I thought, okay, I listened to lots and lots of books on psychology and compassion and communication, and let's just hope that maybe I've learned something from all that study. And as I walked over to do something, two other rangers joined in. So now there were three men holding the bicycle and trying to get it away from the cyclist. So he was clearly outnumbered here, and it was not going to go well. And I heard them yelling that they had already called 911 and the cops were on their way. So in the middle of the screaming and pushing and shoving and kicking and bike thrashing, I walked up and I said, "Hi, I'm Tim." And they just kind of looked at me for a second. They paused for a moment, and they're like, "So?" And I could see they were just exploding inside. The cyclist is trying to get his bike away, and he's screaming and he's calling them names, and they're calling him names, and the cops are going to come, and you're going to jail. And I said, "Guys, wait a minute. I can see you're all upset here, but you're not going to resolve it with anger." I said, "Mr. Cyclist," I said, I don't know what happened, but I do know that you're outnumbered now, and they're not going to let you get away with your bike. So fighting and kicking and screaming and yelling and calling them names isn't going to help your situation. And I know you're totally hijacked right now. I know you get full of adrenaline and you're full of anger, and clearly you feel like you've been disrespected or wronged somehow, but they're not going to let you get away. So you're going to have to find a way to just calm down and be present and just let this take its course." And then I said to the three rangers, I said, "Okay, I understand clearly you think he violated some law, he did something wrong, but yelling at him and screaming at him and threatening him and calling him names has got him totally hijacked. He's in fight or flight right now. And you're not going to get what you want either. You're making it worse by agitating him. So both of you on both sides are making the situation worse. So let's just take a breath. Let's try to calm down." And I said again, "Mr. Cyclist, I know you just want to leave." And I said, "Mr. Ranger, what happened?" And he said, "Well, he took his bike and he threw it on the flower garden, and it's an alpine garden. The plants are really fragile, and he broke them, and they're not going to come up again until next year. The gardener worked really, really hard on these plants, and this ass just totally disrespected them, threw his bike in the plants, and acted like it was no big deal." So I'm like, okay, what resolution do you want? Do you want him to go to jail? Do you want him to apologize? What do you want? Do you want him to pay for new plants? Do you want him to provide community service, to replant the garden? Like, what is it you want? Why are you holding him here? Do you want an apology? And the ranger's like, "Yeah, I want an apology." I said, "Okay." I said, "Mr. Bicycle Man, do you realize that you damaged their plants, and this is an alpine garden, so the flora is really fragile, and do you understand that they're really upset about that?" He's like, "Yeah, I get it, but there was no place to put my bike." I'm like, "Okay, well, that's beside the point. Do you understand that they're upset?" He's like, "Yes." I said, "Would you be willing to apologize for, putting your bike on the things?" And he's like, "Yeah, but they're calling me names and everything. They call me an asshole." And I said, "Okay, I understand that. I understand that you feel disrespected, but do you think maybe you could offer an apology?" And he took a few breaths, and he was all huffy, and he said, "Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I did that. I just didn't want to leave my bike in the walkway where people were going to trip on it. I didn't realize the plants were valuable. I apologize. If you want me to pay to have new plants in, I'll do that. And then the ranger's like, okay, well that's all I wanted. I just wanted you to realize that these plants have value, and I just want you to realize that you can't just do whatever you want up here, that this is a special environment. And we have to take care of it, and we have to protect it, and that's our job, to protect the environment. And you were disrespecting it, and then you disrespected me. I'm like, okay, that's good. So I asked the ranger, do you accept his apology? And he said, yes, I accept his apology. I'm like, okay, are we good? Did you get what you wanted? Do you want anything further from the cyclist? He's like, no, I'm really upset, and if he's sorry for what he did, that's okay. The guy's like, I'm sorry, you got mad at me and I got mad at you and we're just totally hijacked. And I'm like, okay, good. Are we good? And the ranger reaches over, he's like, I'm really sorry, sir. Can I shake your hand? And they shook hands. And he's like, why don't you come into the lodge? I'll buy you a cup of tea. We can sit down and talk. And he's like, no, I'm good. And I'm like, all right, great. See? Do you still want him to wait around for the cops? Do we need the police here? And the ranger's like, no, it's okay. So I was like, all right. And then they stopped and they looked at me. And they're like, who are you? I'm like, I just happened by and nobody else was helping, and it just really upset me that you guys were being violent and hurting each other, and you're clearly bloodied. You've been cut by the gears of the bike being smashed into you, and I just couldn't stand by it and watch that happen, so I just had to do something. And they're like, well, thank you. We really appreciate that. So I hung around for a few minutes and I talked to the cyclist, and he knew that he had done something wrong, but when they were yelling at him and calling him names and threatening him with the police and saying they were going to take his bicycle, he couldn't hear that. He went into this fight mode. And you see this all the time in conflict. Rather than someone saying, wow, I feel disrespected right now, or what you just did is not okay. Instead, they yell and they call names and they threaten and they lash out, and that causes the other person to do the same. And it escalates to violence. But if people would just calmly stop, take a breath, and share their feelings, saying, wow, that hurt. That's not okay. I really need you to recognize that that wasn't okay, and I'm hurt by what you did. Or I feel disrespected by what you did. Rather than saying, you're this, and you're that, and I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to do this. That doesn't get anywhere except escalating the violence. So I had no idea how this was going to turn out today, but I had to do something. And it turned out really well. So I just had to stop and kind of like just soak that in for a minute, because I'm really surprised that the words even came out of my mouth, because I do hate conflict so much. But I was really calm and it made sense. I could see what was going on, and I could see that neither side was listening, and they were just fighting, and it was only going to get worse. So by getting people to acknowledge how they feel, and by getting people to realize what it is they want, what resolution do you want? Do you want an apology? Do you want some respect? Do you want money to repair something? Like, what is it that you want? Do you want somebody to just say, I'm sorry, I did something wrong? You're much more likely to get that if you let them know how you feel. Like, that hurt. I'd like an apology, rather than, I'm going to kill you and you're a jerk and you're going to jail. So the next time you're in a conflict or you see a conflict, try that. You never know. I'm not going to guarantee that it's going to work, but really surprised the heck out of me and them today. They were really shocked and looking at me like I was a freak of nature. But anyways, nobody went to jail. Nobody died. Guy got his bike. Guy's going to go replant his garden. And there you go. All right. Sun's going down and I got to bike down a mountain now. I'll see you later. Bye.